Give me 13 minutes and I'll eliminate your self-doubt forever. Here's the truth. The biggest obstacle between you and the life you want isn't a lack of talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's the quiet voice inside your head that constantly asks, "What if I'm not good enough?" Self-doubt is far more dangerous than failure because failure teaches you something. Self-doubt convinces you not to try at all. Think about how many times you've had an incredible idea, wanted to start a business, apply for a new job, post your content online, or chase a dream you've cared about for years. You felt excited for a moment, then the questions started. What if people judge me? What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? Before anything even happened, you had already talked yourself out of it. That's what self-doubt does. It doesn't always scream. Most of the time it whispers, sounding logical and responsible. It tells you to wait until you're more confident, more experienced, or more prepared. But that day rarely comes because self-doubt keeps moving the finish line. The frustrating part is that consciously you know what you want. You know the direction you should take. Yet every time you're about to move forward, something inside pulls you back. So why does this happen? The answer is simpler than most people think. Your outer actions are always reflecting your inner beliefs. If deep down you believe you're capable, worthy, and prepared, your actions naturally become confident. But if your subconscious identity is filled with uncertainty, hesitation, and fear, your behavior will mirror that instead. Self-doubt isn't the real problem. It's a symptom. It's evidence that somewhere inside you, there's a belief that doesn't match the future you're trying to create. Imagine for a moment that you knew with absolute certainty that you could succeed. Imagine knowing you were capable enough, smart enough, deserving enough, and strong enough to handle every challenge ahead. Would you still hesitate? Would you still overthink every decision? Would you still need someone else's approval before taking action? Probably not, because confidence isn't created by perfect circumstances. It's created by internal alignment. When your identity, beliefs, emotions, and focus all support the future you want, doubt loses its power. So throughout this video, I'm going to help you discover exactly where your self-doubt comes from, why it keeps showing up, and 3 practical steps you can use to replace uncertainty with genuine confidence. Because once you change what's happening inside your mind, everything outside begins to change too. Now, here's something most people never realize. Self-doubt isn't there to protect you from failure. It's there to protect your current identity. Your mind would rather keep you in a familiar situation than risk becoming someone new. Even if your current reality makes you unhappy, it's predictable, and the brain loves what's familiar. That's why every time you're about to step outside your comfort zone, self-doubt suddenly becomes louder. You start questioning your abilities. You compare yourself to people who are already years ahead. You convince yourself that now isn't the right time. But none of that is the real issue. Those are just symptoms. The real issue is the story you've been telling yourself. I experienced this personally when I first started creating content. I wasn't afraid of making videos. I was afraid of what making videos would say about me if they didn't perform well. Every time I thought about hitting the publish button, my mind immediately imagined criticism, low views, negative comments, and embarrassment. So instead of recording, I stayed busy doing everything else. I'd research, I'd plan, I'd redesign my ideas. I'd tell myself I was preparing. But in reality, I was hiding behind perfectionism because I doubted whether I was good enough. Eventually, I asked myself one simple question. What exactly am I afraid will happen? That question changed everything. When I stopped avoiding the discomfort and actually looked at it, I realized my fear wasn't failure, it was rejection. I had connected my self-worth to other people's opinions. If people liked my work, I felt valuable. If they didn't, I questioned myself. No wonder I couldn't move forward. The moment I separated my value from other people's approval, something shifted. I realized my worth was never determined by views, likes, or compliments. Those things measure performance. They don't measure value. Once I truly accepted that, the self-doubt began losing its grip. Because confidence isn't believing you'll never fail. Confidence is knowing that even if you fail, you'll still be okay. That's the difference. People with strong confidence don't have fewer fears. They simply don't allow those fears to define who they are. So instead of asking yourself, am I good enough? Start asking, what evidence do I actually have that I'm incapable? Most of the time, you'll discover your doubts aren't based on facts. They're based on old experiences, past criticism, or stories you've repeated so many times that they started feeling true. And the good news is this: anything you've learned about yourself can be unlearned, which means confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. One new belief, one courageous action, and one small victory at a time. So now the question becomes, how do you actually eliminate self-doubt? It starts with awareness. You can't change something you refuse to acknowledge. So grab a notebook, because the next few questions can completely change the way you see yourself. First, think about the goal you've been putting off. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's changing careers. Maybe it's creating content, asking someone out, or finally chasing a dream you've ignored for years. Now ask yourself, how do I honestly feel when I think about achieving this goal? Don't give the answer you think you should have. Give the answer that's actually true. Do you feel excited? Or do you feel anxious, nervous, overwhelmed, unworthy? Write every feeling down. Now ask yourself an even more important question. Why do I feel this way? Keep asking why until you can't go any deeper. If you're afraid of failing, ask yourself why. If you're afraid of being judged, ask yourself why. If you don't think you're good enough, ask yourself where that belief came from. Most people stop at the first answer. Don't. Keep digging until you uncover the belief underneath the emotion. Because emotions are only signals. Beliefs are what create them. Here's another powerful question. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you truly believe you're capable of achieving your goal? Be completely honest. If your answer isn't a 10, don't judge yourself. Get curious. Ask yourself, what's stopping me from believing in myself completely? Maybe you think you don't have enough experience. Maybe you believe you're too old. Maybe you think you're not talented enough. Or maybe you failed before and secretly believe that failure defines your future. Whatever comes up, that's where your work begins. One more question that most people never ask. What's the worst thing that could happen if I actually succeed? It sounds strange, but many people unconsciously fear success. Success brings visibility, responsibility, higher expectations, change. And if your mind believes those things are dangerous, it'll create self-doubt to keep you exactly where you are. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to keep you safe. The problem is, it's protecting you from a future that's actually better than your present. Once you become aware of these hidden beliefs, everything starts making sense. You stop blaming yourself for lacking confidence. You stop wondering why you're stuck. Because now you can clearly see that self-doubt was never your identity. It was simply a belief you've been carrying. And beliefs can be changed. Now that you've identified the beliefs creating your self-doubt, it's time to replace them. Remember this: you don't become confident by waiting. You become confident by acting before you feel completely ready. Confidence is built through evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes proof that you can trust yourself. Every difficult conversation you have, every workout you finish, every project you complete, every time you do what you said you were going to do, you're sending a powerful message to your subconscious. I can rely on myself. And that's where real confidence begins. So instead of trying to eliminate every doubtful thought, focus on becoming the kind of person who keeps moving despite those thoughts. Because courage always comes before confidence. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they need to feel fearless before taking action. You don't. The people you admire still experience uncertainty. The difference is they don't negotiate with it. They acknowledge it, and then they move anyway. Another habit that builds unshakable confidence is keeping your word to yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to wake up at 7 a.m., do it. If you promise yourself you'll read 10 pages, read them. If you commit to practicing a skill every day, show up. These small actions might seem insignificant, but they create something incredibly powerful: self-trust. And once you trust yourself, self-doubt has very little room to survive. Here's a challenge for you. Right now, write down 3 actions you've been avoiding because you've been doubting yourself. Maybe it's sending an email, starting a business, applying for a job, posting your first video, making that phone call. Whatever they are, don't wait until tomorrow. Do them today. Not because you'll feel ready, but because taking action is what creates readiness. Every action chips away at doubt and strengthens belief. Remember, your future isn't created by your thoughts alone. It's created by the actions you take despite your thoughts. So if there's one message I want you to leave with today, it's this: you are not your self-doubt. Self-doubt is not your personality. It's not your destiny. It's not who you are. It's simply an old story you've repeated for so long that it started feeling like the truth. But stories can be rewritten. Starting today, choose a new one. Choose to believe that you're capable. Choose to believe that you can learn. Choose to believe that you are worthy of success, happiness, and the life you've been dreaming about. Because the moment you stop believing your doubts and start believing in yourself, everything changes. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. And remember, the life you want begins the moment you stop doubting the person who can create it.